Hold on. Okay, so everyone here knows me as Kosha Dillz, but my name is Rami. And I'm just gonna be, is this thing recording? Okay, it is. Okay, everyone knows me as Kosha Dillz. My name is Rami Matan Even-Esh. I am gonna go to, today is 19 years sober, so 19 years clean. Some people use different language. That means July 30th, 2004 was my last day that I got high. And I'm gonna kind of give you like the early stories, because a lot of people don't know. I feel like a big reason why I'm gonna do this, because I really don't have a connection with people that follow me. I think a lot of people have found me from things that really have nothing to do with my story, and I need to cultivate relationships. I'm really bad at it. So, and I'm also like kind of embarrassed, or maybe have a lot of shame in my story, because it's pretty
it's the least of
relentless. And yeah, there's so many facets to it, so I'm gonna get into it. So, I grew up in New Jersey, born in '81, and I grew up wrestling and grew up playing soccer, and my first addiction was yo-yo dieting. I wouldn't say I was bulimic, but I was definitely like making myself vomit at an earlier age, and that was like the first kind of taste I had of very extreme action. Yo-yo dieting was a huge thing. I then went to drink for the first time at 12. I think they had Tide Pods, but back then it was like with dishwasher detergent and alcohol, vomiting, and then 15. At age 15 was really when like yo-yo dieting from wrestling, losing 8 pounds in a day, and I got so drunk at a bridge party. I think I got pissed on. That was my first experience drinking, and then I remember the prettiest girl in school like acknowledged me, so I was like, holy shit. I was like, I love her. I was like, I'm going to do this forever. So that was just like my high school experience. By the time I was 17, like right when I got out of high school, I was on my way to college, and I had recruiting trips from wrestling, because I was really successful in wrestling. I made it to a state tournament. I was like the top 16 in the state. I was number 1 in the county, number 1 in the district, number 2 in the region. So that was my thing. I just took out all my energy in sports. When I turned 18, my 18th birthday, I got arrested. So I was ducking police, ducking NCAA Division I drug tests. My father found out, the charges were dropped. I was like there was like an undercover operation where we went to buy weed, and back then you were getting guns pulled on you for having like a joint. It was just wild west of what it is now. So I was, right when I got to college, I already started selling drugs. Like I bought a little bit, and then first thing was like, if I buy one thing, why don't I just sell drugs? So I was getting involved in selling acid, weed, everything. And sort of just like drinking was like my drinking moments, and weed and experimentation with other drugs was next level. I already took ecstasy a few times in the summer, and this was all at Rutgers. By the time I got to 19, and this is like when I started selling drugs in New York City clubs, Club Exit, which is now I think Terminal 5, so a lot of people know that. And Sound Factory. This was sort of like the world of Limelight. That was kind of just the world I kind of came in. So it was all dance music. It wasn't rapping yet. The rapping sort of shit came later. But I had friends that, gave me an opportunity to perform at the New Rican Poets Cafe, very famous poetry cafe in New York. And like I needed to get high to get on stage, but there were times when I didn't get high, which I was actually performing better. So I had like a little taste of what life would be like without getting high. By the time I turned 19, I was wrestling all the way up to the end of my sophomore year, and then I chased after some girl. I started selling drugs on campus. I was selling opium, and I was selling ecstasy, and I was selling ecstasy for like $5 extra a pill. Now ecstasy at the time was like, if you knew what the commercials for fentanyl are, like you see all the fentanyl commercials, they had ecstasy commercials. So ecstasy was like killing people at the time. And I was like, wow, having ecstasy was like kind of the thing in college campus. And I went down to the Jersey Shore. We like lit it on fire, and there's some bonfire in Seaside Park. I woke up, police were there. My father billed me out for $5,000, put it on a credit card, and I was just like, kind of trying to be like it was a spoof, and I had to start going to get, recovery, like, going to therapy and seeing a therapist, shit like that. The first thing I did when I got back from there was try to get high, because I was like, oh man, now I'm on bail, right? And I mean, this was like an expensive bill. It was $50,000. The ecstasy was no joke. I got called 15 pills. I went, and I almost got my ass kicked in a fight because everyone thought I was ratting them out. They're like, why would this guy be, partying and trying to get drugs like the day or two after he got out of jail? And now, if you think about it, people that do drugs and are addicted, they just do that anyway. They're like ready to get it. That summer, it was pretty much the end of the end. It was like, I was like marked as a drug dealer. And, in between this time, I had friends staying with me that were also drug dealers, that were like selling and scamming people. And these were like my friends, and I was in a world of shit. This is when I was 19. I had trips to Cancun where I like lost 10 pounds because I just got high the entire time. I knew Spanish, so I went to buy Oxycontin at like a pharmacy and like scheduled doctor's appointments. By the time my third year, I switched to, this is why I'm on bail. So my entire junior year, I quit wrestling. I ate California cheeseburgers the entire year from Tata's Pizzeria. I had a beeper. People would beat me for ecstasy. And I destroyed the apartment I lived in. This was like, there was two bottoms. One was physical, one was spiritual. So I'll go through the physical one first. So the physical one was like, I did cocaine probably 3 weeks in a row. This was during 9/11 time. So every day, once I just had some coke, I would just like listen to like Jada Kiss. I thought I was like, Tony Montana or something like that. I was like, the movie Blow had just come out. That was like kind of my vibe. I was very much like in sort of like a Guido kind of vibe. I don't know what the clothes I was wearing was just ridiculous. And I was just like getting my feet wet and selling coke. People that were associating with me and I was associating with were like under watch by federal marshals for a murder committed in Puerto Rico. And like my neighbor, I went to do an armed robbery with him in a dorm, which was really crazy if you think about it, because this guy was also, I knew him from sports, from high school. We just became like savages. It was like my worst physical bottom. I remember 9/11 happening and just getting high. But like for 3 weeks in a row, I did blow every single day. So like I had shit like, I got hemorrhoids, I remember, from doing so much drugs. Like this was just like a physical, I don't remember a blackout. Like I didn't take pictures for probably 3 years. So this was like the time of like Instagram. You didn't document anything. That was like the Instagram of the time. Because you don't want anyone to find out anything. I got kicked out of this house. I moved over to, and I remember like I stole a car. There were certain things that happened in this time. I stole a car, but it really wasn't like stealing a car. It was like the keys were in there, so I just took it. And I had no idea who it belonged to. I remember, this armed robbery, got in a bash because the person didn't show up. I remember beating someone up in the streets. His whole face was bloody, and like a guy owed me like $100, and like we treated him like like we were some like mafia boss or some shit. And that was just kind of the life. I also like delved into angel dust, but they were had people over my house that were drug addicts too. And I saw a needle once, and I kicked this crazy shit. I kicked a person out of the house. She was like, "What do you think? You're better than us because you snorted and we use needles?" And I'm like, "Yes, get the fuck out." I thought that shit was insane. But then I realized that plenty of other people were doing it, later on. So mind you, this whole time I'm on bail, I've never gone to any other situations where like I knew I was gonna do time. We went to go see our lawyer. The lawyer said, "Hey, you're under watch by federal marshals," because a guy, this dude Fernando, came to my house, and then the police came out and they arrested him, right? So I'm like crying in front of the lawyer, like, how am I gonna go? This is my first offense. This is like my first legitimate offense, right? Because my last charges were dropped when I was 18. And that's what it was. So I basically prepped myself to go to jail my summer year. And this included, like, I was selling, by this physical year, I was selling everything, mushrooms, this, that, and the third. I tried to go back to county college, didn't work. I got like an F in golf. I got an F or a D in golf, I remember. That's probably one of the only things I remember from that year. I go back, I go to jail, I'm there for 3 months. My entire time, like, there is also trying to get high. I got into a bunch of fights. I fell in love with some other girl in jail that I met while I got my face split open, and she was in medical unit coming off like 10 bags of heroin. This is fucking crazy. And I stayed in touch with her because I slid her Tylenol under the door, and we were like in a 23-hour hole. Yeah, like that was like my life. It was like, oh, you get yourself like a girl on the other side, you know what I mean? Crazy enough, this girl grew up, had children. She like became like a devout worshiper of Christ, I think. You know, actually, like, I don't know, became friends with her 20 years after on Facebook. Shout out to her. I remember that time, like, the crazy thing, and this is a shift. So 4 days when I got out of jail, everything happened there. And like a lot of crazy shit happened in jail. Like people threw shit at me. I got into a bunch of fights. And I got moved around a lot, and I was with all different kinds of people. From people that did armed robberies to people that are immersed, because in jail there's like, it's like on the way to state prison. But in there, it was the first time I saw a rabbi. This is kind of my Jewish story, is that everyone was seeing a pastor and a priest, or what may have you. And I was like, well, I demand to see a Jewish guy, or else it's religious discrimination. I refused to work for like a doc because I was too good for any of them. And I was just like super entitled. But I wrote every single day. And that was like my one thing that I did every single day. I end up getting out of there, and the first 4 days, how can I say it? No. I also fasted for Yom Kippur, I remember that, and during Rosh Hashanah I was there. And it should be noticed that I celebrated my birthday, so I was 20, turning 21 in jail. First 4 days I went back, I linked up with all my old friends, which they tell you not to do. And my friend, he was doing a deal with 2 pounds of weed, so I went there, and, you know, just like have a beer at my boy's house. I had some beers. The second day I got out, I'm still like on the jail schedule of waking up at 7 in the morning. And we get in an armed robbery, and boom, my boy gets pistol whipped. I have guns to my head, and they take everything from us. So chains, money, and I barely had like anything. I had like a bunch of silver chains. And the first thing I did right after that was I went to the bar. Like, it was the first thing I did. I went to the bar, then went home like no one knew. And then, like, I was like, what do I gotta do to stay out of jail? And I was kind of like already headed on a wrong path, and I had to go, you know, I'm on parole and probation. So I got out on an early release for my sentence. I was sentenced to 9 months on the offense, and they were trying to give me 5 years. Somehow they agreed to 9 months and like four years probation. I was like, what can I do to get better? So I'm like, I'm gonna get a girlfriend. So it's like my first girl. I was like, you know, that was like the major plan. So here I am, and my main thing is like, I'm gonna get back into school. I have about 60 credits. I go back to Rutgers, like nothing's happening. I'm kind of like navigating my way, right? And I'm just selling drugs and drinking. So I become like a massive drug dealer in school. I'm like only doing big weight things. Everything is perfect till this person breaks up with me, probably about a year later, a little bit less, 11 months later. And then there's sort of like my spiritual demise. And so the first part was like very physical. This one was really spiritual. I was like really in a dark place. I remember we went to Las Vegas. I was trying to go from Sin City to the Holy Land. This was my big plan, and I went on something they called Birthright. And I became the like drunk dude on Birthright, and I was like I was wrecked. It was 22 years old in Birthright. And I'm like, it was bad. And also this girl wasn't Jewish, and the girls did, and you know, it was like one of those things. I remember I just had a little bit of hint of like the Israeliness in me, but I was super like, I bought her like pink Tims and blue Tims, and like that was like rap shit of that time. I did my first ever rap show during that time when I was 22. And all my music was about drugs and like hustling and chainsaws and horrorcore, and it was super dark and aggressive. The last 6 months was my spiritual demise, so I started like just going downhill. I started getting high again because I was just drinking, and now I'm doing drugs. And I tried everything. I was like, I'm gonna get the girlfriend, I'm gonna drink and just do drugs, I'm gonna do drugs and just drink, I'm gonna not do drugs, not do drinking, and just sell drugs. And I started going to these meetings. I had to get certain things for probation and parole. And by the time that I was getting back involved in all the hustling, I was selling, like I was like wearing a yarmulke, driving through Highland Park with like 5 pounds of weed in the trunk of my mom's car. It's not mine, so let's like, you know, put it into perspective. I was like selling drugs with all these Indian kids that I was like, holy shit, these Indian kids are gonna be, you know, no one's gonna catch the Indian kids because they're Indian, and everyone thinks Indian people study. And then I'm gonna sell drugs with this black kid because no one will ever find out about this black kid. And then by the time I was, my last months, I overdosed once, and I tried to, like, I don't know what to say, suicidal overdose or accidental. I tried to do a bunch of K on Memorial Day weekend in New Jersey. Ketamine, if people know Ks, or horse tranquilizer. And super in dark. The next thing I do was my final job, besides delivering pizza and selling drugs, was selling cemetery plots door to door. And that was like my real dark thing, where I was basically doing drugs, staying up all night, taking Tylenol PM, blacking out at the cemetery, and making phone calls and going door to door selling cemetery plots. I'm selling cemetery plots door to door. I just remember doing it, and like it was getting bad because at this time I started, like I used to stay up all night doing blow and go to bed, you know, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, but now it started doing like 2 a night. So basically that's when you stay up the entire next day, so you don't ruin your next day. You get back on a normal schedule. So I'd stay up till midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. of the next night so I could go back to school. I mean, or whatever was happening. I hope it's so loud in the background. So by the time like I'm finishing up, I have 10 credits left. It's like I'm taking a test, and this is the kicker. I'm taking a test. I get a phone call from a kid that wants to buy a bunch of stuff. And like I said, all the Indian kids got arrested, and this is the kid that set me up, who was like, I thought was like, you know, the cool kid. And it would never happen to me. And next thing you know, I see the police running after me. So I throw my bag, and I could never leave my my drugs like in a certain like.
It's not gonna be.
I could never leave them off of me because I would never trusted anyone. So I had a ½ ounce of coke in my pocket, and I had all the smaller amount of drugs in the bag. So I tossed the bag. I'm running from a parking lot where I get set up, coming from my car. Then I decided, instead of run away from the school zone, which is what you should do, I ran into the school. So I wanted to like go back to like take the test. I was like, thought I would go back and like take the test. I swear to God. So I'm like running. Then I'm like, okay, I'm running down the stairs. I shoved the guy off of me, and I'm running, and I'm dressed in like all this like Sopranos was out at the time. So I thought I was like Tony Soprano or like one of the kids. I swear I had all this Italian stuff on. I looked like a complete douchebag. And I'm like fat and out of shape, and it's just, the shoes are super thin. I remember I'm like breaking my feet running from the police. And while I'm in handcuffs, I have a bag of coke here, and I get it out, and I shimmy it out of my pocket, and it drops in front of mad students right before I was going into a police car. So they found the drugs in my car, they found the drugs in the bag, obviously, and what happened was someone picked up like over a ½ ounce coke, which is mandatory 2nd degree. And mind you, I had already done time. So if I had already done time going into this is by sure I am out of here for like many years. And somehow, some way on the discovery, that bag of coke was not discovered. Someone just picked it up. So the next thing that happened to me was I was in jail, right? So I had just come from probation. I was beginning to be in this situation where I was like taking like drug test pills to like clear. It's like boop boop, just to eat them. They were not going to work because I wasn't doing the necessary prep for it. It's like doing intermittent fasting while you like for every 6 hours. Like doesn't work. You know what I mean? I go to. I had like 10,000 cash in my drawer in a shoebox. My father had put like money in like a stock. I had to sell this stock. And at the time, rehab was cheap. It was like probably like 10,000 a month, which sounds like a lot. But now, if you go to rehab, it's like 30 racks a month for inpatient, like 1,000 a day. This at this point, 2004 is a little bit cheaper, and I was like completely ready because the week before I was like, I need to either get arrested or go back to those meetings, and I got arrested. And that was it. It was July 30th, 2004. I began, like my feet were like nearly broken. I remember even I found a bag of Coke at the rehab in one of my pockets and I threw it away. And then that was the beginning of my journey of like, okay, I'm gonna be an inpatient for the next 90 days. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna just like lead everyone to promised land. I'm gonna like, I remember I was like, I'm gonna get money. I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna be like the leader of the sober world. I'm gonna write a book about my life. It's so crazy. Everyone says that, by the way, because they're literally in delirium when you're like, you have so much energy because you've literally like, you're about to go through the biggest life change. And I figured like my dream was like, at the time was like to go to like the KTU music festival at like PNC, like Bank Homedale. Like I was like listening to it on the radio. And yeah, my life was drastically different. 50 Cent was out at the time, and I had rap songs, and I just wanted to rap. I recorded like 4 or 5 rap songs. It was all about me selling drugs. There was no Jewish hints of anything, and in fact, the Kosha Dillz. I went from Kosha Dillz to KD Flow, and then I was like on the verge of becoming the Kosha Dillz that people know for today. And I didn't want to be Rami because too many people already realized that Rami was like an Arab name. There was only other Rami I knew was Lebanese from wrestling. And shut the fuck up. Okay, police. And this was my journey began. It was drastically different, and this began of like meetings every day. By the time I had 7 months in the inpatients and 3 quarter houses, I ended up somehow getting probation for all my charges. And a quick note, my first job was selling shoes. They nicknamed me Al Bundy, and I was on my feet so much that I was applying to anywhere. I was applying to like women's lingerie shops, all in Keyport, New Jersey. Back then they didn't have like internet. It was like MySpace didn't even exist yet. They had like internet cafes, and my job was I got a bike with 1 pedal, and I rode it to Matawan, New Jersey, and I got a job delivering flowers on a bike and maybe a car. And that was it. That was like the beginning of my my life. And the rapping, when MySpace came out, was like when I uploaded my music to MySpace, and then I discovered a new addiction, which I was on MySpace for like 12 hours a day. Similar to like how some of you guys are on YouTube and Instagram now for 12 hours a day. And that was the beginning of my switch. When I first got clean, I was living in these houses. I was selling gym memberships in New York City, taking a train and just hitting meetings. So it's like I have 19 years, and that was kind of the main driving force with these 12-step meetings. But a really interesting thing is I kind of went back to, after a year of living away from my folks' house and living in and out of programs, I went back to my folks' house. For the next 7 years, I figured out how to just go to meetings, rap, and enter rap battles, and I became Kosha Dillz. And this became like an opportunistic time to do things and figure out where I could go with the car, rap, be on probation, stay out of jail. My main goal was staying out of jail. Relationships weren't like a thing. I think I don't think like I ever went on a date, or I don't know, anything. I think maybe my next relationship, like from the drug one, was like in 2009, which I met through recovery. But like in between those whole situations, MySpace was like my driving force. I wanted to figure out how I could get my music out to people, and I had a college degree, which I didn't do anything with. I think during my time getting high, I once got a job as a substitute teacher and assistant wrestling coach, but I couldn't get the job because I have felonies. So the felonies have really been something that hold me back. It kind of forced me into doing my own job. So I'm really grateful for the job, you know, of getting arrested. So now I have the job as a rapper. An interesting shit that happened was like my first gigs in 2007, 2008, 2009, and the people that like I met in those times, 2010, 2011, 2012, like as things started to build up through the Kosha Dillz thing, as in thing, it's like how you guys found me. Most of the people that I know have like, if they were using, and some of them are now dead, which shouldn't, like I already had 2 friends die this year, and I realized I toured with them both in different times, and the person who I first created my first album with is now in jail on rape charges. So which I'm pretty sure he was convicted, but like I just, you know, I guess I say that like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So you like, you know, the addicts, they attract these other people who attract people with like other issues. And people really gravitated towards me because I've been clean. I did all this clean. I mean, you're talking 2006, I'm clean, I'm touring, I'm figuring out, I'm touring with people in like Wu-Tang, I'm touring with these other artists. And everyone else gets high except me. And my own thing was like, I can't sell drugs anymore, so I started selling CDs. I can't sell ecstasy pills anymore, so I started selling t-shirts. This is an old t-shirt actually from like 2008. Shout out to Flex, my only other sober friend that tours with me. And yeah, my first major tour, my buddy Robust, who I got clean with, he OD'd. And it's really sad. And I don't want to skip over the fact that the first 2 houses I lived in, which were Oxford houses, I think it's named off, if you know, the Oxford group, which is essentially like the foundation of 12 Steps comes from Oxford, the Oxford group. Partially like spiritual religious group, I'd say, that's more leaning toward Christian principles. People overdosed in these 2 houses that I lived at, and they were called 3/4 houses, Oxford houses, that, you know, you had to be in by like 11, shit like that. So, you know, the Jewish thing really didn't appear till 2006-7, and I started going on these trips. After Birthright, we couldn't go back to Israel like on a free trip, and I didn't have any money, so I went to meetings, delivered pizza, and basically figured out, I said, okay, what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna figure out how to kind of, you know, make money through music. And I went to these Jewish groups, and they're like, you can perform at these Jewish events, your name's Kosha Dillz. And I knew Kosha Dillz was like a dope name, but people were using rap names back then. No one was using their real name. And my real name, I felt that it was kind of a con, and I was really ashamed of like my Jewish identity, of everything. I wonder how this wind's gonna come up. Oh well, we'll find out. So, we're in Central Park, by the way. If you're watching, it's like, where are they? We're in Central Park. So, yo, I'm like, all right. Someone's like, why don't you rap about Israel? I'm like, okay. Why don't you rap about this? You're like, okay. And people started gravitating towards me. I started touring with Matasiyahu. I did a couple shows with him. In 2008, I toured the entire country, but the main funding show, besides $50 shows and $200 shows and $100 shows, was this one Reformed synagogue in Boulder, Colorado, from a guy I met on MySpace. And shout out to Ben. I don't know where he is today. I don't even know if he's still alive. That, like, what I was like, oh wow, this is a thing. Like, I'm gonna be able to do this. And I started getting my taste of like playing the Jewish events, playing this Jewish music scene. And people are like, oh, Kosha Dillz, it's like a thing. But none of my music really had Jewish twist to it. It just had some Jewish references. They're Jewish concepts. And I was really just coming from a world that everyone I knew drank Dunkin' Donuts, didn't drink, and like worked construction, and was like Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic, Roman Catholic, in Middlesex County, New Jersey. This is where I got high and ran and did everything. New Brunswick, Middlesex County. I got the opportunity to live in the yeshiva because they were like, hey, we'll pay you to come do Jewish stuff. And I'm like, you mean I could move out my parents' house and live somewhere else? And all I gotta do is put some phylacteries on me, you know what I'm saying? All I gotta do is wrap this thing called tefillin. So I started thinking about that, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. And just still sticking to the rap shit. I won my biggest rap battle in 2009, which was like, they called me white boy, and it was like 5,000 black people in New York City at the Hot 97 rap battle. And this is where my shit drastically changed. I went from, being 5 years clean, right? The only time I had gotten on TV, I did a BET Cypher, a BET Freestyle Friday thing. And my career started picking up after I won this rap battle. I got a record deal, promotional record deal with Duck Now Records. And all I did at this time, you could still watch the videos, I was like beginning my balding journey, right? I made meetings, and then I just battled, and I didn't want to do anything else. I had started touring a little bit with Modest Yahoo, and all the Jewish people found me. 2010, 2011, this was like, I began touring by myself with these accolades. I became a playable video game character in NBA 2K, and in 2011 I moved to Los Angeles, which was probably the best recovery in the country, and that's what drew me there. I was the only person that did arts where I came from. Everyone else worked in construction, and I'm really grateful. I just made these meetings every single day. And then by 2012, I had my first big hit. We had a Super Bowl commercial, and that was like, a little bit over 10 years ago. Yeah, and that's just like one story I wanted to talk about, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that the entire Kosha Dillz startup was based out of not really wanting to be Jewish, because people made fun of it. Also, the embarrassment and shame of like not knowing Hebrew, even though it was my first language, was a big thing, a big driving force. And now it's like my journey, my closeness to Jewish life and stuff, which is like an attribute. It's like an extra credit from being in recovery. Is that entire shit comes from not wanting to be Rami. And it's crazy because, like I said, if you knew me, everyone hated me. Everyone hated me. By the time I was done, by the time I was done getting high in 2004, no one fucked with Rami. And now I'm at a point in my life where everyone knows, oh, Kosha Dillz this, Kosha Dillz that, Kosha Dillz success, or Kosha Dillz rap, Kosha Dillz comedy, Kosha Dillz on Wild and Out, Kosha Dillz Billboard charting artist, Kosha Dillz Rolling Stone, Kosha Dillz New York Post, Kosha Dillz Buffett. There's like a long list of things I do, but the quest, I'm like on this new quest to re-establish Rami, because I basically created this musical presence out of darkness, and I created a career, and I just really been pursuing that, and now I'm sort of trying to haul that back and like replace spots of my soul, because I wouldn't consider myself a rapper. I would consider myself a person that was trying to survive like a horrible set of circumstances that I put myself in because I couldn't deal with my issues, right? My fear of being alone, my fear of being abandoned, my fear of how could I say it? Like, fear of being abandoned, fear of being alone, and not being worthy enough, having a lot of shame, but not being good enough, to be where I'm at, I guess, which is, it's pretty fucked up. And, it makes sense, because if you look at all the people I've ever worked with, they're all a lot of broken people. Like, from superstar, like, just in the arts, a lot of people have a lot of issues. And I'm sort of trying to navigate my own like mental well-being. It's really difficult. So today I got a phone call from somebody who directed he was part of one of my videos, and he's a complete rock bottom. And I've gotten these calls multiple times in the recent times, and I people out of jail. I remember bailing somebody out of jail, and I thought to myself, well, if this person doesn't pay me back, it's the same thing I've done to my family. And these are just people I developed relationships with. And I'm always wondering, how do I connect more to people that watch my music? Or maybe you see me rapping on the street, or maybe you see me, creating a funny video, or rapping in a snowstorm, or dressed up as a character. But it's really because I'm dealing with a lot of this fucking dark shit, and I'm in my head so much, I need to get out of my head. So freestyle rap is sort of a thing that has really helped me be in my body and stuff. So I'm dealing with, going to therapy now, and they're like, yeah, when you get into armed robberies and people are getting pistol whipped in front of you, that's part of trauma. Seeing people in 2014 outside my house get shot and killed, it does shit to your brain, right? And the fucked up thing is when you've been sober for so long and you don't drink anymore, it's like, there's still fucked up shit that happens. That's just blocking one of the bad things that's gonna happen. So drinking, drugs, we push that to the side. Then you have life, right? So you have to do all that. And I was thinking, what can I do different this year instead of, you always do a post and a sappy thing, and I just want people to, maybe they learn a little bit more about my thing, maybe have some questions. Maybe people are like interested about what I do now. I didn't go to meetings for years, and now, due to my personal life circumstances, I dove back into therapy. I was off medicine. Started taking antidepressants. I got back on them, and not really giving a fuck what people think, because it's my life. I have to live within this body. I gotta live in it. Oy vey, all day. Yeah. But I'm really having fun becoming Rami again. It's really my child is thrilled. Not that I have kids yet, but I will, God willing. It's been a tough road. Tough road as of recent. So I know you guys see a lot of people always putting up this short stuff, and I remember getting clean during MySpace, and people have been, you got to get off of it. And now it's like, there's MySpace, now there's Twitter, and there's Facebook. Now Twitter's no longer, it's X, and now there's no more fucking Instagram. People are going back to trap phones, and I remember being addicted to all those things, and then seeing my friends that I came up with that knew all that, and now they're dead. And then I'm like, you know what? I should make this video, after the calls that I get. So anyways, I don't know. I just wanted to let you guys know about me. And maybe I'll do these more. Maybe you guys like it and you're like, you should do more things like this and concentrated efforts. I just wanted to tell you, this is my 19 years, so it's me celebrating at the park. I got this old little briefcase. I got these cool little glasses. I'm gonna put it on, and I'll see you later. Thanks.
Bye, Rami.
Bye. Oh, bye.